So, you want to learn what affects weapon damage in New World. Fine, but let's start with Grit. Grit is the ability to continue an attack despite getting hit with another attack. Without Grit, an attack would be interrupted if an opponent strikes you before you strike them, but with Grit you can continue to swing through. You will know an attack is a Grit attack when you see the white particles surrounding your character. A player's current stamina is how much Grit they currently have. When they are attacked during a Grit attack, their stamina will deplete, and the amount is based on the Grit damage of attack versus Grit resistance of the player. If the attack causes your stamina to deplete to 0, it will still cause a reaction, even though it was a Grit attack. There are weapons like warhammers that have abilities that affect Grit, so experiment with those. Now what affects weapon damage? Let's start with basics. Your character attributes does affect weapons base damage. Strength and Dexterity affects sword and axe. As far as I know, sword is affected at a ratio 80% strength and 20% dexterity, while axe is affected at a ratio 60% strength and 40% dexterity. But everything is subject to change. Just keep in mind that those two weapons need more strength attribute, but also benefit from dexterity. Bow and muskets only rely on dexterity. All magical stuffs only rely on intelligence for damage, while focus affects mana regeneration and all weapon ability cooldown. And as cooldowns are shared for all weapons, then cutting off 30% with focus might be a good idea, especially if you use magic weapons. One more thing about attributes. You can go above 60 points in any attribute, but only with gemstones and foot buffs, and the return is diminishing. In example, from level 61 to 80, you get 60% of what you got from level 41 to 60. So it's up to you if you want to go beyond level 60 or no. In any case, to me it makes sense to use weapons that rely on one or maximum two different attributes, because you will never be able to max all attributes. From leveling up, we get 71 attribute points, extra 60 or so from gemstones and jewelry. Extra constitution we can get from food, but it is temporary and will require constant eating. So technically players only have around 80 points to spend after they max out their constitution or health. Now regarding gear score. Weapons base damage value is a raw multiplier. So 271 gear score does 271% of your base damage value. But you can see the damage numbers on items, so don't bother much with this. Just when you are browsing marketplace, sort all items by descending gear score for your convenience. But always pay attention to perks too. Some of these are even more important than gear score, as some perks may add up to 40% of damage to your weapon. And perks can vary from damage to all enemies to only damage against specific type of enemies, like Void, Lost and so on. Search for the weapon that suits your goals better. There is no one weapon that is the best. Some weapons work better in PvP, some in PvE, some during invasions and like that. Still, there will be weapon meta, I'm sure of that. But hopefully developers will add more and more new weapons with cool abilities over time. We are promised new weapons, so just be patient. Now let's talk about weapon light, heavy attacks and abilities. Currently weapons base damage is modified based on attributes, and then an attack's damage is calculated based on a modifier on that base damage. So light attacks may be anywhere from 0.8 to 1 from base damage, while a fully charged heavy attack is usually around 1.4 of your base damage. And abilities can range widely from 0.25 to 2.5 of your base attack. New World has physics-based combat, and servers track head and leg damage, but only for ranged weapons. So if you use melee weapon, it doesn't matter where you hit. Headshots obviously will do more damage, especially if you max out abilities that give you bonuses, and leg shots will slow enemies down. To increase damage even further, use trophies. You can have 5 different trophies per house and a total of 3 houses. So technically players can have 3 max tier trophies that provide large advantage when fighting ancients, in example, 1 in each house. And there are trophies that grant large advantage when fighting lost, corrupted Angry Earth and Beasts too. So if you know who your enemy is, you can use trophies to gain large damage buffs against specific enemy type, pretty cool. In addition, controlling more territories results in a global bonus to crafting as well as increased damage against enemy mobs. So it pays off to control the whole Eternum, even if you don't care about PvP at all. And lastly, there are weapon coatings that players can apply to their currently drawn weapons. And that will increase your weapon's damage against beasts, ancient, corrupted, angry earth or wraith enemies. Coatings last for 5 minutes, or if you unequip the weapon. And only one coating may be applied to a weapon, but it stacks with other weapon traits. But don't forget about ward food. It won't add damage, but will add protection. And as we currently have regeneration food, ward food and crafting food on at the same time, getting additional constitution, it makes sense to use it. Benefits are obvious, more hit points and less damage taken. This is what you should know about what affects your weapon's damage. Get the best weapon with most useful perks, max out attributes that your weapon relies on to increase its damage. Don't be afraid to go over 60 points of attributes with gemstones, and on top of that use trophies and weapon coating to expand your damage even further, adjusting this to specific enemy type. Just remember, everything is subject to change, and if you like this video, you know what to do. Also, link to my Discord is down below. Feel free to jump in and say hi or ask me any questions. That's it for now. Eternum awaits you.